They called it wrong. They called it wrong. They missed the call. They could have called it months earlier. They would have known.
We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
If 2020 and 2021 were only about COVID-19, then 2022 stands out perhaps for the efforts made to come out of it. And as this year draws to a close, we decode how the world has emerged from the pandemic. We assess new dimensions, new paradigms. But a very huge question stands out. Will we ever break completely free? Welcome to the new normal, life after COVID.
(2022), the year that marked the beginning of an end to the COVID-19 pandemic. Across the world, countries started crawling towards normalcy after being in pandemic mode for nearly 3 long years. There were signals finally of respite, of an uphill climb to active and non-tied down life again. But before we go there and look at roadmaps ahead, let's rewind a bit. The nightmare had begun on the last day of 2019. It originated here, Wuhan in China, a city of 11 million people. China alerted the World Health Organization to several cases of what it called unusual pneumonia. The virus, said to have come from bats at a wet market, was tagged the coronavirus. Humanity had seen nothing like it, the dangers, the rapid spread, the medical mayhem that erupted in days to come. Coronavirus, later labelled COVID-19, would go on to bring the planet to a literal halt like never before. Outside China, the first cases were confirmed in South Korea and Japan. In weeks and months to come, Europe, the Americas, South and Southeast Asia, Australia, Africa, no one was spared. Lockdowns, isolation and quarantine measures, and more took shape.
WHO has been assessing this outbreak around the clock, and we're deeply concerned both by the alarming levels of spread and severity and by the alarming levels of inaction. We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
India announced a full 3-week lockdown on March 24th. Many countries followed suit, partial or complete shutdowns, as a virus brought the globe to its knees. By September, over 25 million worldwide were infected. Deaths crossed 1 million as medical systems struggled. Worldwide, through 2020 and 2021, nations continued to slip in and out of lockdown mode. The longest was in Argentina, a full 234 days in 2020 and 21. As the fallout became visible on a global scale, many businesses that had done no business for months on end were forced shut. Entire economies lay shattered. It took months for those dark clouds to ease. Cut to 2022. The world started unlocking itself, slowly amid debate and trepidation. Countries started relaxing lockdown rules and intensity, and the biggest relief of all, the number of new infections dropped significantly. Intense R&D alongside coordinated vaccination drives set in. The WHO said 90% of the world's population now had some sort of immunity from the virus. A year on, at least in most parts of the world, a semblance of normalcy has returned. The face masks are off and work from home checks are easing. We've woken up to new realities and equations. And as the world is trying to come back on its feet and regain its pre-2020 form, we take a look at new normals post the COVID-19 pandemic.
Coming out of that COVID-19 pandemic has been about getting rid of precautions and restrictions. While most countries did take a step towards in that direction, towards normalcy, there was one country that clung towards its COVID-19 restrictions. Until today, it is in a COVID-19 horror mode.
Wuhan, the epicenter of the coronavirus. Not 2020, these are pictures of October 2022. The world was looking to unshackle itself, but China, ironically the original epicenter of the virus, stuck with fierce measures. Vicious, unrelenting lockdowns, quarantines, and contact tracing was the norm. A single case meant hundreds were locked in. Xi Jinping's zero COVID policy was at work, and hard. And then this happened. A massive blaze in an apartment block in Urumqi in Xinjiang region on the 24th of November. Official figures put the number of dead at 10, though it is believed dozens were killed, as residents were, to put it bluntly, locked in. Locals say doors on the ground floor had been wired and welded so people could not escape. They moved upwards, many jumped from balconies. A dysfunctional system showed too. It took fire personnel close to 3 hours to put out the blaze.
There were so many obstacles in the way. Obstacles on the way to the building, locks on the door. The neighborhood is blocked. And when the workers came, when the police came, they could not get into the building immediately.
The Urumqi fire let loose a blowback against Xi of a kind never seen before, and it rung out in cities across China. For the first time ever, public sloganeering against Xi himself. As COVID police clashed with protesters, young and elderly, men and women, they were out on the streets. Demands raged for an end to zero COVID measures. Comparisons were made to Tiananmen Square. China was on the boil like never in 3 decades and more. Then it swung the other way. She decided to relent to public pressure. Zero COVID was eased, as were lockdowns and quarantines. Testing dropped, and as expected, the case count surged. Few deaths were reported, but crematoriums were overflowing. Even from behind the secrecy curtain in place, the horrors and déjà vu of COVID-19 were seen returning to China. Vaccine shortfalls were hurting and hard. The world emerges out of COVID. China stands at first base still. Schools shut, crematoriums overflowing, the health system falling to pieces. A top Chinese official said the country is experiencing the first of 3 expected waves of COVID infection this year. Not the world or rivals saying this, mind you. This is China admitting and fearing the worst. A first wave through mid-December to mid-January. A second surge after the Chinese New Year, taking the virus to the interiors. And a third wave from mid-February when they return to work. To spell it out, China remains trapped in COVID mode. New post-COVID normals are yet to find their way in here. Here, the curse lingers.
Three years of the COVID-19 pandemic has changed our lives in a very big way. There were new work trends that started emerging, new ways and means of greeting each other. But despite such adaptations, there were few businesses across the world that bled money. But some made it big.
Over the last year, there has been an urgency to emerge out of the pandemic, a dire need to get back to normalcy. During the last 3 years, COVID-19 has impacted everything, from how we live to how we interact with each other. Every aspect of our lives had been affected in some way or the other. The world started discovering living with the new altered reality. The pandemic changed our daily routines, such as shopping and commuting, and accelerated digital interactions. Over the last year, a slew of instances and opportunities which could reshape the future emerged, especially in the sphere of healthcare, where telemedicine gained prominence. Home healthcare services boomed. Now a general physician is just an online call away, and medicines from the local pharmacist delivered to our doorsteps. There's also a surge in e-commerce. Consumers increasingly went digital, purchasing more goods and services online. The pandemic also compelled companies to take a more holistic and compassionate approach towards their workforce. Work from home became the new normal. Companies across the world started inculcating the hybrid work mode. Employees were offered wellness days off amid COVID-led burnout. Companies started ensuring that the employees take a much-needed break from non-stop duties. Businesses had 2 options, either adapt or shut down. Businesses which quickly adapted to changing times boomed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Online food delivery increased multifold. Revenue from the online food delivery market is projected to reach 0.77 trillion in 2022. And not just food, almost everything is now a click away. From furniture to utensils, from electronic gadgets to books, everything is available online. The pandemic also triggered a surge in pet adoptions. Pets were seen as companions and helped people fight loneliness. Another sector that has gained during the pandemic and through the last year is the OTT industry. Lines in theatres ran low. People preferred sitting in their homes and heavily relied on OTT platforms. The result? The entertainment industry gained massively during the lockdown. New shows and web series gained popularity. While various businesses boomed, it's also true that major economies across the world were badly hit.
The US economy is shrinking. The GDP of the United States is shrinking. All these will push the United States into a recession.
There's a 25% chance of global GDP growing by less than 2% in 2023. It defines as a global recession.
Demand and supply forces are not strong anymore. The market is becoming more and more volatile.
From the United States to the United Kingdom, economies started showing signs of a recession. Layoffs and job losses turned rampant, even among giants like Meta and Microsoft. India has stood out here as a beacon of hope, showing exemplary resilience in the COVID recovery. The country is set to become the world's fastest growing major economy in the year ahead. According to a survey by the Indian Central Bank, the world's fifth largest economy is expected to grow 6% in the fiscal year ending March 2024. Experts say all major activities and parameters of the economy have crossed pre-COVID levels and are now enjoying macroeconomic tailwinds. Compared to other countries, the Indian economy is firm and stable. A semblance of normalcy is back. There's an eagerness to get back to active life and even set aside the perils. But how real is that? Developments at the fag end of 2022 have raised tremors of the COVID dread returning.
COVID dread is back. And just when we thought that the pandemic is over, the virus is on the prowl again. And this time again, questions are being asked to China as to why did they hide their numbers. It's like deja vu all over again. The first COVID-19 case was detected in Wuhan 3 years ago, and the rest is history. But I want to ask you a question. How prepared are our defenses against this variant?
Are we back to 2020? Scientists are issuing a similar warning. What's currently happening in China is a grim reminder of what played out 3 years ago. The pandemic killed 6 million people. It turned the world upside down. And just when you thought that the pandemic is over, alarm bells have started ringing again. The surge in cases in China is a sign that the pandemic may not be over anytime soon.
Two years later, more than 6 million people have died. Although reported cases and deaths are declining globally, and several countries have lifted restrictions, the pandemic is far from over.
Experts are predicting a new wave of the COVID-19 virus called the winter wave that could soon bring back the horrors of 2020.
WHO is very concerned over the evolving situation in China, with increasing reports of severe disease. In order to make a comprehensive risk assessment of the situation on the ground, WHO needs more detailed information on disease severity, hospital admissions, and requirements for ICU support.
Some experts warn that China's COVID surge could spill over to the rest of the world, and that could halt the world once again. And the fears go beyond just COVID.
In 2023, we expect ongoing high transmission of influenza, COVID, and RSV, as well as many other respiratory viruses. Each of these viruses has a different predilection for long-term side effects, and because of that, it's still very uncertain on how these viruses are going to affect our health system, our hospitals, our emergency rooms, and the clinics.
35 months and 600 million cases later, scientists are issuing a similar warning. They say the current COVID surge in China is bad and could spill over to the rest of the world. Experts also say that the coronavirus could kill more than 1 million Chinese if the country fully reopens by January next year. The World Health Organization hinted that Beijing may be hiding its COVID-19 numbers. The sudden lifting of COVID-19 restrictions in China has caught the fragile health system unprepared, with hospitals scrambling for beds and blood, pharmacies for drugs. And the world is taking no chances. Taking a lead, India has started random testing of international passengers to keep a tab on the resurgent virus. As the COVID cases are slowly showing an uptick, the world is better prepared. This time around there's less anxiety as large parts of the global population is vaccinated. But the World Health Organization warns that there are still huge weaknesses in the world's healthcare system. Advanced preparation of the healthcare system, accurate and shared data collection, and open communication are all important to battling coronavirus infection. But many of those elements appear to be lacking in China, and that's the cause of worry. An even bigger concern is the possibility of the virus evolving into more dangerous variants.
People are being warned not to let the guards down, and it's time again to put on the masks and maintain social distancing to keep the virus at bay. And as we enter a new year, fears of COVID-19 have resurfaced. It's a deja vu perhaps, but we ask, are we really out of the pandemic? And when will we completely break free?
WION, now available on Spotify.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at WION.com.
It's code red for humanity. The alarm bells are deafening. Wildfires, floods, and hurricanes. Extreme climate events warn of impending doom. Is the world heading towards a climate catastrophe? Watch WION's Climate Tracker weekdays at 12 p.m. GMT, 5:30 p.m. IST.
You don't know how to fix the holes in our ozone layer. You don't know how to bring the salmon back up a dead stream. You don't know how to bring back an animal now extinct. And you can't bring back the forest that once grew where there is now a desert.
You have ignored us in the past and you will ignore us again. We have run out of excuses and we are running out of time.
Show us your faithfulness. Show us your trustworthiness. Show us your honesty. Prove us wrong. we desperately need you to prove us wrong. God help us all if you fail to prove us wrong. God help us.